But guess what? It takes work. Because each and every day, most of us are just hopping on the treadmill of life and we're not experiencing any of this. We're just going through and we're wondering why we're surrounded by people, but we feel alone because we don't have deep, meaningful relationships. Because the relationship first needs to start with your relationship with yourself.
Welcome to the Permission Slip Podcast, where I, empowerment coach, mindset expert, and holistic nutritionist Carmen share with you the tools, conversations, and resources you need to write your own permission slip, take massive action, and become obsessed with your own life. Let's get started.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Permission Slip Podcast, and we are on part 4 today. Part 3 today. I'm getting ahead of myself of Best Self 2024, how to really show up and up level as your best self next year. And it starts with work that you're doing this year. So if you haven't listened to part 1 and part 2, this is, I'm certain of it now, part 3. So part 1 was about building your foundation because you can only keep up to your purpose and your calling to the level your body can take it. So you really need to have a strong foundation if you want to up-level your life, your business, your health, relationships, and more in 2024. Then you need to have the 3 R's, and I share what R's are. That was too many R's together. I share what those are in part 2, which consists of something like renewing so you can reflect, creating resourcefulness, and then just really going for it in your life. Blah, blah, blah. I'm starting over again because I couldn't remember what the friggin' 3 R's were. What is it? Relentless. Okay. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Permission Slip Podcast. Today, we are diving into part 3 of Best Self 2024, because guess what? Your best self next year starts right now, this year. So if you missed it, I highly, highly encourage you to go back to part 1 and part 2. In part 1, we talk about building your foundation for your best self, because honestly, you can only keep up with your purpose, your calling to the level your body can take it. And most of us can admit that we're not taking care of ourselves in one way or another like we should. So we really need to up-level that. Then after we build our foundation, we talked about the 4 R's that you need to up-level your life, your business, your health, your relationships, and more in 2024, starting now. And I said 4 R's, but in the episode, I only gave 3. Because in this episode, I'm going to give you the 4th one, and we're going to dive into it and the how-to of it. It's that important. But in part 2, we talked about being able to renew and reflect so you could really get super self-aware and have radical self-honesty of where you're at right now, not as a judge, but simply as a witness of your life. Then you went into being resourceful, thinking outside of the box, not asking how, but asking who, building community and collaborations, and then being relentless, going for it, not being shaken by your external environment, and really going for what is meaningful in your life. So I want to go into the 4th R, and I want to dive more into this idea of becoming unshakable. So how can we create so much freedom and peace and calm in our bodies, in our mind, in our spirit, in our nervous system, so that when things happen externally, we can maintain our high vibrational frequency. We can maintain a sense of positivity. We can maintain a sense of faith and belief and abundance. And we don't go into worry, lack, scarcity, fear, overwhelm, and anxiety. And so here's what it comes down to. And now this is a lesson that we teach multiple weeks in Flow Academy, so we can really understand how our bodies are working with our minds and how they're working with our external environments and how we are all just energy and an energy exchange. So to start off, as humans innately, from growing up, we all want to be safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And so we do whatever we can based on our conditioning, societal expectations, and our experiences to start protecting ourselves. Because somewhere along the lines, someone scared us. Someone told us we weren't good enough. We weren't picked for the team. Someone put us down. And we started building our own thoughts and beliefs. And we started using our own coping mechanisms in order to feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure. For me and for many of my clients and many of the students that we have in Flow Academy, it really comes back to this idea of feeling safe in our bodies. And now I'm not talking about like someone's running after us and going to attack us. That's not necessarily what I mean. Although, of course, we want to feel safe from that as well. I mean, actually feeling safe, grounded, aligned on purpose, in control of your thoughts and emotions, not going down the endless vicious cycle of criticism and judgment and worry, and you just feel good. So it's an overall state of well-being spiritually, mentally, and physically. That's what it means to feel safe in your body. There's probably many times that you can think of where you feel really confident and comfortable, where you feel really great to be around certain people or in certain environments. You feel really aligned and grounded. That's what we're all seeking. But what happens in life is we experience things. And as we go through life, we experience things and they bring up old traumas from the past or old experiences from the past. Sometimes we like to call these triggers, which then creates an emotion. So the emotion you might feel is anger or betrayal. You might feel a sense of fear because maybe you're not feeling safe in your body. Whatever that emotion is, that's really uncomfortable for us. And our ego self and our bodies, we've learned to bypass that emotion and we learn to go into our brain and have a thought based on that emotion. So first, there's an experience which creates this really uncomfortable emotion in our body that we haven't been trained to name and to sit with. So we create a thought that creates a meaning, which then produces a feeling for us. And so maybe we're feeling really hurt, but the thought that we have turns it into anger on the outside. And then what do? So after we have the trigger, the uncomfortable emotion that we've learned to cope with some way or numb out or disassociate from, it creates a thought that then takes that emotion and applies a certain meaning to it. Now, remember that A Course in Miracles says nothing has meaning until we place meaning upon it. So then we have this surface level feeling and we react based on that surface level feeling. So let me give you an example of this so you can understand what I'm talking about here and how we can start unpacking this and how we can start choosing to respond versus react. And it all starts with one thing, and that's utilizing the power of the pause. Taking a pause to check in with yourself, to feel safe and aligned and grounded, to understand what that uncomfortable emotion was, to understand what triggered us, to understand what meaning we're placing on things, and even to go as far as, why did I place that meaning on something? What is the limiting belief that I have behind that? Because you know what? Beliefs are the ultimate catalyst for change. You can hold them, challenge them, or change them. And it's often not our values that we say are driving our thoughts and actions. It's our beliefs. And many of these beliefs are built over time, like I said, based on our conditioning, societal expectations, and experiences, and built into our subconscious. These neural pathways that we're not even aware of, and we're just going through these patterns and these mental conditionings each and every day without being aware. So we're being triggered, we're placing meaning on things, and then we're reacting. And we wonder why people can't get along. Because no one is doing the work to clean up their side of the street, to understand that maybe if I wasn't triggered, then this whole process wouldn't have happened. And I wouldn't have reacted in that way, which would have caused other people or the other person to then react as well. Because when someone feels like they're being pointed the finger at, what are they going to do? Their ego is going to come out. They're going to get triggered. They're going to go down this same rabbit hole. And now it's your ego versus their ego, not your highest self. And it's a bunch of reacting and not responding and not being self-aware and not taking radical responsibility for ourselves. Okay, back to the example I was mentioning. So let's say you're going throughout your day and it's been a full holiday season and you're really enjoying it. And you have your week planned out full of work, taking care of yourself, and seeing friends and family. And it's full, but you're excited. And it's Wednesday and your plate is full. You're feeling a high vibe. Everything is great. You're going through your day. You're feeling peaceful. And then a family member, let's say your mom, asked you to do something for you on that day. And instantly, you know that you don't want to do it. And it creates an uncomfortable emotion for you, but you don't name it. And so then the thought you have is, oh, why does she always do this to me last minute? Why am I the one that always has to do everything? Can't she ask my brother? And it creates a feeling based on that of resentment, separating you from love, separating you from your relationship with your mother. And then what you do, the worst thing is you react because the feeling that you just produced was like, you have to, like, you should be doing this. And so you say yes begrudgingly. She can feel your energy change. You can feel your energy change. You do the activity. You don't have fun. You don't show up as your highest self. But let's reverse engineer this. Your mom asked you to do something. It creates a trigger. You recognize that the state of your energetic body is shifting. So you say, okay, Carmen told me I need to pause here. What is this emotion that's coming up right now? The emotion that was coming up was like a deep sense of guilt if you didn't do the thing that your mom asked. And then the thought that you placed on it was, she's my mom. I should be doing this. And it created a feeling of resentment because she always asked you and not your brother. So if we go back and we rewind and we notice that I feel uncomfortable sitting with this feeling of guilt. And because I don't sit with the feeling of guilt, which the emotion of guilt, and I bypass and I avoid it and I people please, I keep abandoning myself. I'm not reaching my goals and I'm not keeping my commitment to myself. So if I keep going backwards and go back through the resentment, the thought of I have to do this because this is my mom and no one else will do it. My brother's not going to do it and I have to, and go back to the guilt. Then we go to the belief that's underneath that. What is our belief around doing things for our mom? Well, you grew up with her being a single mom and she worked 2 jobs and she did everything for you. So you should be doing everything for her now that you're older. In that belief, as I just say it out loud, you would ask yourself, is this true? And you kind of like, well, I don't know. I think so. Like, how do I know it's true? Well, maybe it's not true. Maybe I've just taught her how to treat me and I always say yes. So she doesn't know any different. I haven't shared with her how I'm feeling. I haven't created any boundaries. I haven't told her what's important to me. And she's my mom and she loves me. So she would want to know what I was up to. She wouldn't want me to overextend myself. So I guess it's not true. And then you just ask yourself, who would I be? How would I act? How would I respond without the thought of this is my mom, I have to, turning to resentment? And I take 90 seconds to sit with the emotion. Science says that it only lasts 90 seconds and the guilt kind of subsides. And you decide to say, hey, mom, I have a really full day today. Is that something that you could ask your brother, whatever your brother's name is, to do? Or maybe you think of an alternative. Hey, mom, I have a really full day today. Is that something you could just order online and have delivered to the house? And you give her an alternative. So the work here, the goal is to be able to recognize, and you can think about when you get knocked out of alignment. When you get knocked out of alignment, what is your go-to coping mechanism? What is your go-to response? Do you normally go into worry? Do you go into doubt? Do you go into anxiety? Do you go into overwhelm? Do you numb out with food or alcohol? Shopping? Do you do like what I would do and overwork? Do you disassociate, which just means pull back and avoid the conversation? Even if you're still in the conversation, you just mentally check out because you can't sit with the uncomfortable feelings, or you just avoid it and ignore it completely. Because we all know when we numb out, we avoid, we disassociate, or even when we people please, in the end, it doesn't serve us. So the goal is to be able to recognize when we're doing the coping mechanism by recognizing when our energetic shift happens and we're out of alignment. Then we want to name the emotion and uncover the belief that's underneath it and try to challenge it for a moment, taking time to pause long enough to respond from your highest, most calm, centered, peaceful self from a place of love, not your ego, so that everyone involved feels good. Because we all know when we respond from our ego, react from our ego, things don't quite go as we want them to. So this is how you build the fourth R, and that's resiliency. It's learning how to sit with uncomfortable emotions so that you can maintain your high vibrational frequency, so that you can maintain your deepest priorities, so that you can show up more days than not, more situations than not, as your best self. But guess what? It takes work. Because each and every day, most of us are just hopping on the treadmill of life and we're not experiencing any of this. We're just going through and we're wondering why we're surrounded by people, but we feel alone because we don't have deep, meaningful relationships. Because the relationship first needs to start with your relationship with yourself. So that's how you start building resiliency, this unshakableness. And I want you to practice this. And then I want you to get a notebook. And I want you to do what I like to call collecting evidence. So I want you to start collecting evidence. You'll find trends on your thoughts and your reactions. You'll find trends on your emotions. You'll find trends on the emotions that you are really trying really hard to avoid or disassociate from. You'll find when you're people pleasing. And if you're having a hard time getting back into that stay in play state, that rest and digest, that parasympathetic state, something that my friend and Flow Academy graduate and transformational life coach, Megan Mercer, taught just the other day in Flow Academy it's simply taking your hand, placing it on your heart. Do it with me now. Taking a deep belly breath. So filling your belly with air in through your nose and then your chest, and then sigh it out through your mouth. Do that 5 times. This is going to start regulating your nervous system. It just feels good right now, just doing that. Sometimes I get kind of worked up on the podcast, just going. So sitting back and regulating your nervous system before you dive into, okay, what is the emotion that I'm feeling? What is the belief underneath this? The belief beneath this. Try and say that. That's like a tongue twister. Try and say it 3 times. Beneath, belief. Can you do it? Okay, if you can do it, send me a DM. Anyway, but this is the real work right here, because if we can calm our state, get back into our body, recognize that we are always safe, we are always supported, there is a stream of well-being that flows through us and around us and within us all the time. And we can allow it or we can resist it. It just flows all the same. And it's always there supporting us and guiding us. And there are those times when you get way knocked out of alignment And all you can do is bring yourself back to that state through your breath. Other ways to bring yourself back to an aligned state: breath, movement, sound, and practicing gratitude and appreciation. My favorite is breath and movement, but I also do like sound too. So speaking things out loud, singing really loud is really fun. Movement could be dance, it could be shaking, it could be exercising, it could be walking. Turn on Florence and the Machine, shake it out, and just move your body, jump around, see how that changes your state. It's going to change it instantly. And then just practicing gratitude and appreciation for what you have today can instantly change your state as well. And then just telling yourself that I'm safe and I'm safe to feel and that I am supported. And if you can't come up with the belief and you can't move further in the work, then I would just ask for guidance. I would just say a little prayer and just ask for these thoughts and these emotions to be removed and be transmuted and be brought back to you with high vibrational aligned energy. And that's it. That's how you start building deep, meaningful, authentic resiliency. So that is part 3 on Best Self 2024. I'd love to hear from you. So please, please, please shoot me a DM. Let me know what you're loving so far on this series. And if you think that this is valuable for a friend, a family member, maybe a business colleague or biz bestie, go ahead and just text them over this podcast. And you can all start this practice together. Because wouldn't it be wonderful if we were all showing up as our highest self? No one was just reacting out of their ego self. And oh my gosh, the world would just be such a better place, full of so much more love and creativity and insight and innovation and curiosity. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. I am so grateful, and I will talk to you next week.